Hi, I'm Linda. I'm a life coach in the United States. I have a neurolinguistic programming specialty as a coach. And I'm going to take us through three different exercises. I have a piece of scrap paper here. And these are exercises that could be customized to you, your life, and your situation. So the first one I'm taking from something I learned as the Wheel of Life. Now the Wheel of Life has different spokes of a wheel as things in your life that you might want to have. It's been pretty modern in terms of what the spokes of the wheel are. So job, career, relationships, family, whatever we think of as successful in today's society can end up on those spokes of the wheel. And you want your wheel essentially to be round and balanced. Now I'm going to change that because I've been reading through Joseph Pilates' book entitled Your Health, which Pilates teacher, I got certified years ago as a Pilates teacher. And so I've read this book many times, but this time what's really hitting me is the sleep and the rest portion in the book versus the movement portions in the book. So I'm going to create my own little wheel where I'm going to do mind, body, and then spirit. You can see three things there. And then I'm going to create some spokes in between that and coming off of that for activity, sleep, rest on all of these. So I'm going to go to the body, activity, sleep, rest. And then for the spirit, I'm going to put activity, sleep, rest. Now, Joseph Pilates talks a lot about the mind-body connection. He doesn't talk so much about the spirit, but in my life, faith, spirituality is essential and part of my daily bread. So it is going on here. But you can see how this kind of makes a circle. And then for the assessment part, I would see how either far up, if I'm perfect, or if I'm too much, can be beyond the wheel, or if I'm not as far as I'd like to be, I can move it closer to the center. And that's kind of an assessment for where I'm starting. And then I could come back later and see what's changed. So I could come back 2 weeks later, I could come back 2 months later, I could come back 2 years later and see what may have changed. So that's a way to kind of make a custom wheel of life per se. Next exercise is discovering your redemption story. And this exercise is one that I find kind of fun to do. But you put on top here things in your life that were, we'll call them good, all the good things. And then like a timeline, you might put neutral things here. And then things in your life that were hard, you put down here. So I might put hard mold. I've been going through a toxic mold. And I might put learning herbalism because that has caused me to dig deeper and read more about the literature, so that's a good thing. So if you come up with something good that wouldn't have happened if something hard hadn't happened, that's somewhat of a redemption story. You know, for me also, earlier on, injured dancer, right? And then Pilates and Pilates teacher. If I hadn't been an injured dancer, I may not have become a Pilates or a Pilates teacher. So if you go through your life and create a timeline of different events that were good, intermediate, and then hard, I wouldn't necessarily call things bad. Kind of reframe them as more difficult. But you can come up and see what your life redemption story is. So, third exercise here, and I'm going to switch to the back of the paper here, is non-judgmental journaling. This is kind of a meditation exercise. So you give yourself blank space, and then in this blank space, you journal without judgment, and you can password protect a document and type it in the computer. You could do it this way and then burn it or rip it up. You could do it this way and then you could save it and come back and look at it later. I've tended not to hang on to my freestyle journaling, but use them as guidance for more detailed journaling or searching or exploring. So questions that could be asked, broad questions, such as, who do I want to become? Or here's a fun one. If resources were not a limitation, you had unlimited resources, time, energy, money, supplies, what would you do? I know what I would do right now today is I would start building low toxic, mold resilient communities if I had unlimited resources. And that includes access to people who are more knowledgeable and have the licenses I would need to make that happen. But that would be an example of something that I might do. Now, I'm in a world where there are limitations, so I can't just go make that happen. But I can learn things to move towards that right now. Another question might be, how did I get where I am? That's a big reflective question. Or if there's an emotion or an experience happening in a body or a sensation, you could get to know that part of you and ask it why it's here and see what comes out. So there's a lot of open-ended questions. Or you could just say, what's important to me today? And just start writing and fill it out. And you just keep going until you either run out of time for journaling or you run out of words. Generally, when I get to the end of doing an exercise like this, the conclusion that I have is pretty profound. So, 3 things that I kind of took you through today. One is a version of making your own wheel that you can come back and assess if you made progress towards the balance that you want to have. For me, it was mind, body, spirit wheel. There's figuring out your redemption story by putting hard things and good things and seeing what good things wouldn't have happened if you hadn't gone through some hard stuff. And then there's non-judgmental journaling and meditation, where you just write out without judgment what comes to whatever general question that you ask yourself. So I hope these are some thought-provoking, individualized exercises, and if you do them, do share what you learn about yourself. If you would like support going through one of these exercises or help setting goals from what you learn from some of these exercises to move forward in life, I offer online coaching sessions in most of the United States. I hope you live well.